Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Infield Report. My name is Isaac alongside my older brother, Tyler.
How's it going?
We're back here. Surprise. I know I said last time, doubleheader. This is going to be a triple header, kind of a big one. I'll try to see if I can chop it up eventually if this one's too long for you to digest. But we're here after the two races, well, three if you want to consider ARCA in there, which we will. Three races in Kansas this weekend. We had, like I said, ARCA was out there, the O'Reilly Series and the Cup Series all raced this weekend. Truck Series has an off weekend. They'll be back once we get to Talladega next week. But for now, we're going to hop into just some of the highlights from the weekend. We had, like I said, the ARCA race was on Saturday early afternoon ish. Uh, it was a pretty, I'll say, lackluster race for some folks. For others, it was kind of hectic, kind of crazy. Uh, can't go without commentating on the sport of NASCAR right now and not talk about Cletus. He was running in the top 10 and then blew an engine, ended up finishing 20th. So not a good day for him, especially if he's trying to get more seat time and trying to get approval for anything beyond short tracks and intermediates. So not necessarily the best of days for him. But we did have Destiny Spurlock. She continued her great start to her ARCA season, finished top 10. She finished 10th. She was the first and only car one lap down. Everybody else below her was more than a lap down. And like I said, she held her own. She did fantastic again, ran very well. Gio Ruggiero got the win in the 18 Toyota. So just a couple more additional laps for him, especially since he was off this week, not driving the trucks. So good way for him to get some extra practice. Daniel Dye, in his attempt to make a comeback, finished second. It was a very close, I'll say very close finish. It was a close finish in terms of racing. It was 0.2 of a second behind Gio. So pretty solid for him. Just kind of a Kansas race, typical couple of accidents and, a couple of blown engines. Well, a blown engine. Um, Squirrel, if since we talked about Cletus, we'll talk about Squirrel for a second. He finished 12th. He was also 2 laps down, just ahead of Bobby Earnhardt. So again, just getting them some additional seat time and trying to get some more runs at it, some more cracks at it. And again, he won't be racing in the O'Reilly Series at Talladega. Cletus won't be, but again, this is just a little bit more practice for them and trying to get the experience, gain the experience for the next step in his career if it gets that far. Not going to speculate too much on that, but things can change. But yeah, again, like I said, I'll go back to Destiny for a second. She was doing a fantastic job, and another female, great racer as well. Jade Avedigian, she finished 7th. Had a competitive day all day. Just couldn't quite find the speed late in the race to pass up, a couple of her other Toyota teammates. But great run again for her. She's, I believe, building up to a potential Truck Series run next year. So keep an eye out for her. Don't know where her prospects are going to land her, but we'll keep an eye on her for sure. Uh, Going to the O'Reilly race here, it was kind of a crazy race from the start, and then it kind of cooled off from there. Uh, Carson Quapple and William Byron getting together very early on, and unfortunately, that sent Quapple over, and rolling. Looked like a pretty scary wreck, Tyler. I know you had seen this closer to real time than I did. What were your initial thoughts on the rollover from Quapple?
Was surprising, but the way he hit and hit the wall, and I think there's a little bit of wind as well, just was a trifecta to blow him over. Um, I was surprised that they showed the entire process to flip him over. The way they were showing it, I thought something really bad happened. But after a while, you kind of saw, okay, they're being a little bit slow, they're being careful. Because if it was something a lot worse, they wouldn't have been, going that slow. They would have panned off. So it was scary. It was in a way a little bit nasty, but I'm glad he was all right. I feel really bad for Retzloff because everyone barely went about 2 miles,
Yeah.
almost 3 miles before chaos happened. Um, I don't even remember who the two drivers that spun, but that's what kind of started it, or started kind of the chaos. And as they were coming off the backstretch, probably to slow down or get ready to slow down for the caution, that's when everything just broke loose. And listen to Byron's radio. He says, "I didn't see him there. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it." So there was not really no harm, no foul, but it was racing incident. It happens. I'm glad Kloppel's okay.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm very glad. First of all, you had messaged and said that you were surprised they showed it, the whole process, and I was honestly surprised at how slow it was, but I was glad it was slow. I mean, because you don't, regardless, like they say, it's a 3,400 pound stock car, and just the amount of weight, sheer weight. If you were to just thud, I mean, it's pretty rough regardless. So I'm glad that they took their time. The AMR safety crew was there, and actually they had a guy on the ground talking to Carson. There was no radio transmission that was coming through between him and the team, so it was good to see them communicating with him and them being a little bit slow about it. And like you said, it was kind of a rough deal. I think initially what ended up happening was Byron just made the contact and didn't mean to, and I think it was Josh Balicki in the back somewhere was got a little loose. I don't think that was a direct cause of it, but there may have been some due to checking up, or maybe he was just loose getting out of two. I'm not entirely sure, but he had some issues, and there was a couple of chain reactions that happened and caused that unfortunate rollover. But good to see Carson's okay again. Uh, Took out some cars very very early, and kind of a rough deal for Quapple too. They didn't get a chance to practice or qualify due to all the weather that was in the area. Not just the area, but like the entire middle of the country was tornadoes, flooding, insane storms. So hopefully everybody out there was able to stay safe. Just rough weather, end of the week, start to the weekend, but everything did clear up, and they did end up having to delay the race a little bit due to weather, but they were able to get it in, and the weather stayed away Sunday as well, so that was good. But again, unfortunately, taking out some cars early, and after that whole mess got cleaned up, we saw another incident with another driver that just can't catch a break this year in Austin Hill. He's had some up and down races, and he got squeezed by his teammate Jesse Love, got spun around, and his day ended very early. And again, just kind of a rough weekend for him. He never really got going, so it was kind of hard to tell what he had. Although with him being in the back like that, granted that was also because of his prior finishes, but kind of a rough race. I mean, when you're in the back like that, you're in all this dirty air, you're trying to work your way through traffic and just know where to go, and I mean, what would, in your opinion or in your um, perspective, if you're in the back with no speed or no practice, no qualifying, and you've had a rough year anyway, what would you do in his situation if you were him to try to find find what's working, what's not working in your car? How would you go about that early in the race?
If I was the driver, I would figure out what everyone else is doing to prepare. Because sometimes we get into a rhythm and something clicks or something's in the water that you're not drinking, i.e., what information are you not looking at? What are you blind to? What is everyone else doing? If I'm doing everything in my power like everybody else, okay, now what's the team doing? What's the communication and rhythm that we need to be in? What boat do we need to be in? Is everyone in the same boat? That would be the next thing I would look at. So, yeah, you're great at some tracks and you're just having a down year. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad years. Remember, Dale Earnhardt went winless a couple years. I think in '97 he went completely winless, and the only win in '98 he had was the Daytona 500, and they didn't win anything. And he's considered one of the best drivers ever. So he's having a bad year. Austin Hill, as much as I hate him, he is one of the best O'Reilly drivers out there right now. He's in a slump, but he's got the rest of the year to play catch up.
Yeah, and I'll make a slight correction. He started middle of the pack. He started 15th. It was based off the metric and the way that they finished last week at Bristol. So, um, slight correction on that, but he still wasn't able to start in the best position, and then having no practice qualifying to figure out your setup, figure out what you had. You're kind of going in blind. So, kind of a rough deal for him, and uh, not really the way that he wants his 2026 to continue. But we had Brandon Jones uh, having another good week for him. Good to see him getting back into it again and finding his way back to the front. He was able to sweep both stages and he led a race high 67 laps. So great run for him all throughout the day. Just unfortunately couldn't put it together late. Just things didn't fall in his favor. So can't really fault him for that. Just kind of situational. But at the end of the day, his teammate Taylor Gray ended up getting his second career win, his first of 2026, and I believe Taylor Gray's first career win came at Martinsville in the fall last year, so very late in the year. And now he's got 2 wins to his name in the O'Reilly Series so far. Um, Notice I say so far because I believe he's got a lot of talent, and the fact that he's with a good organization and Joe Gibbs with their O'Reilly program doing as well as they are, um, I think there's a lot of potential for him to grow. And he's not one of the most talked about guys, but I mean, he ran fairly well in the Truck Series when he did that, and then moving his way up to the O'Reilly Series now with Gibbs in the 54 car, which is actually owned by Ty Gibbs, last week's Cup winner. So um, you've got to imagine that there's a lot of good momentum from that team going forward, and great way to start the year. I know we're 10 races in already, but good way to start it for sure and keep positive momentum going. Plus, he was able to pick up some stage points throughout the race and stuff like that. He was running really well all day. So just the ability to get the job done again, get his first win of the year, kind of get that out of the way. I would say, I mean, I don't want to say get that out of the way, but like get on a positive, an even better track, and then continue to use that momentum and try to build that, especially as we're coming into the early, late part of spring, early part of summer, where some teams can fall into a slump. So you want to try to use this as a springboard to keep yourself moving forward. And he's been pretty solid, and I think he's going to continue doing that. We have Mr. Bridesmaid himself, Sheldon Creed, coming in second yet again. Although now he's got a win to his name, so it's not like there's any sort of negative connotation to that. It's just now he finished second again. Um, there's got to be a statistic out there somewhere. I'll see if I can research it this week. Uh, who's got the most runner-up finishes? Period. Because I feel like he's got to be up there, or like percentage of finishes in the top two, like or in second or something like that. There's got to be he's got to be way up there. But he ran himself a good race. Again, earned himself quite a few stage points as well. So being able to continue his positive momentum and things like that as well works for him. And just good to see him doing well. I think where he's at now, where that team is at now, with his teammate Sam Mayer coming in ninth. So, two top 10 cars for them bodes well, especially since they're not too great on the Cup side right now. But having some good momentum in the O'Reilly series, I think, is good for them. Uh, but the Cup series was not as eventful for most of the race. Uh, I know we had just got done watching it not too terribly long ago, Tyler. But what your initial thoughts on on the Cup race and the complete and utter, well, I'll say the domination of Denny in stage one, Larson in stage two. What were your thoughts on the race as a whole?
Well, with them dominating each stage, I thought it was going to be the 2023 spring race all over again. And the, the overtime finish almost seemed that way, but we'll get there in a minute. But overall, it was okay. Everyone kind of got into a rhythm of a little bit of fuel saving, a little bit of tire saving, a couple of passes here and there, and some people did have runs, which were nice. Some were struggling a little bit, but that's kind of the package and thinking I want on the super short tracks instead of half speedways like or half super speedways like Kansas and Michigan and Chicagoland, all that. But towards the end, it did get really exciting. I almost wanted to take a nap throughout the rest of it, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it wasn't looking too eventful, which sometimes it doesn't have to be. And I know we talked about this in the previous portion of this episode of like, it doesn't need to be chaos for it to be a good race. There just needs to be a lot of good racing. And I think there was throughout the pack. It wasn't always shown on TV for sure. I know that there was, some people talking about some of the good racing, middle of the pack, back of the pack. Um, but for the most part, it was just kind of just run around. Um, like I said, we had Denny dominating stage one, led dang near every lap of stage one. Kyle Larson was able to find some speed and won stage two, which, I mean, those are two of the usual suspects you think of when you think of Kansas in this next gen car now. And on the note of Kyle Larson, we should mention he now holds the record for most amount of laps led at Kansas. I don't have the exact number, but I know he passed Harvick fairly early in the race. And he is also the first driver in the next gen era to lead 5,000 laps. I think Denny right now is currently in second at like 4,100 ish laps. So it's not necessarily close. And then I think Byron was behind him in third with like, what was it at? It was, I don't know, like 2,400 or something like that. It was a big gap from first to second, second to third. And then everybody else was kind of sort of close that was behind them. But 5,000 laps in the next gen car is crazy. Um, So I mean, kudos to Larson for being able to do that. Couldn't quite hold on for the win though, and we do have to talk about that the ending of the race because Cody Ware, Cody Ware, 6 laps down, he comes out of 4, and we're getting to the end of the race, and we have Larson and Hamlin, or I'm sorry, Reddick and Hamlin that are battling for the lead, and we get to the end, or we're at 2 laps to go, and I think it's middle of 1 and 2, I think it is, or it might have been 3 and 4 on 3 to go, and Larson, I'm sorry, I keep going Larson. Reddick says he ran out of fuel, or he thinks he ran out of fuel. Mind you, he was chasing down Hamlin really hard, and was able to close the gap, and then ended up passing Hamlin with, like, I think it was 10 to go. And so there was a super tight battle. They were battling back and forth. Look, great battle to the end there. And like I said, 3 to go, and you see Reddick drift up a little bit, and he's shaking the car. And from what I had heard, he said, "I'm out of fuel" on the radio. But then that they wiggle the cars. Sometimes they can get some to catch, and they've got that reserve, in the fuel pickup, so they can switch over. And they've got, I want to say it's like, 2 ish miles of fuel left. That would have been enough to get them to the end, maybe, depending on how much there was left. But they get to the end, and Reddick's making this big run on Denny, and it looks like he can possibly catch him, in turns 3 and 4, coming to the white flag, and Cody Ware spins, coming out of 4, right before they get to the white flag. And as soon as that happened, you and I were on the phone at the time, and you had said, "It's rigged." Do you truly believe that, or was that just kind of a comical statement in the moment?
It was a comical statement in the moment because in sim racing, I've been on both ends. One, or I've been on all three ends, I'm going to say. One, you're having a great race. You just want to say, just get to the white flag, get to the white flag, get to the white flag. And then something happens and you're like, no, really? You had to do that right in front of me?
Yeah.
So you see the car spinning and you go, oh my God, we have to re-rack. Should I pitch? Should I not? Okay, everyone did what I did. And then you lose the race. And it's just frustrating and awful. I've been on that side where it's like, oh my God, I messed up. I'm out of fuel. Oh my God. And I've never won an iRacing race, but I came in second after messing up pretty bad, and there was a green white checkered scenario, and that saved my behind. And I've also been in Cody Ware's shoes where having an awful race, something's either broke or the tires are shot. You just want to get to the end. Just get to the white flag. I see the leaders. Sometimes you see the leaders most of the time and you miss your mark or you get close to the apron or you wiggle a little too much and you're around. I've been in all three situations. So I know what it's like for all three of them. It's no, I don't think it's rigged, but it was just a huge coincidence that all this happened. We think he's out of gas. Hamlin has a strong lead, and then somehow Reddick wasn't out of fuel, and everything was okay. And then he almost spins both his uh, Toyota teammates of was it Eric Jones and Hamlin on the backstretch. And then I thought, oh well, Larson just won this. And then as soon as I said that, I see Reddick come bat out of hell and he wins the race. I'm like, is it rigged the other way? But that's a hot take. That's a joke. I'm glad Reddick won. He had a strong car. It's just it was so chaotic the last 10 minutes of what actually was going on.
Yeah, and it was Briscoe because they were coming down, and they were coming down the backstretch, and I think Reddick got into the back of Briscoe. Briscoe got into the wall a little bit, and ended up having to go to the inside. I think he had it initially on the broadcast, it looked like he may have bent a toe link, which he might have, but the way that he was able to wheel that thing back around and finish third was rather impressive. I think initially I thought that when Briscoe came down, he was going to take out Hamlin. It was not aggressive enough of a move to come down and block him immediately, but it looked like there was going to be some big contact. There wasn't. There was kind of a hesitation, and then he pulled down a little further, a little slower, and it kind of back stacked everybody up a little bit from there. But um, it was it was an incredible run. Watching the end of that race, and I think it doesn't always need to be exciting the entire race, but it also doesn't like. I'm not going to say that it was a an all timer because it really wasn't, but the finish was great. Watching the end of that race where, like you said, Reddick comes up and just he flies by Larson there at the end, and they had a really tight battle during overtime. It was entertaining to watch, and between Reddick, Larson, Hamlin, um, you know, those are the three big ones you can kind of always within the last couple years you can bank on them to finish towards the top, not always necessarily win, but always be towards the top of the leaderboard. And they finished 1, 2, and 4. Briscoe was able to, like I said, salvage that from hitting the outside wall and finding a way to finish third was, like I said, rather impressive. Uh, four of the top five were Toyotas. All the Toyotas looked very strong today. Um, Larson, the top Chevy, in second, and then Brad in sixth was the top Ford. So good to see him do well as well. RFK at Kansas has been pretty pretty good the last couple of years. So it's good to see them doing as well as they are. But um, yeah, that Cody Ware spin with 2 to go was rough. And Denny felt like he was robbed of a win. I again am not the biggest Denny fan, but I kind of agree. It was rough, but fourth place finish, nothing to really sneeze at. It was he had himself a good day. I think it's just for him, it's going to be a matter of time before he gets a win this year. And unfortunately, the way that things went there at the end was not the best. But again, it was just kind of an interesting way to end the race. But Reddick with 5 wins on the season now, he's 5 of 9 on the year, and he's had 4 poles and 4 wins from the pole. That's incorrect. That doesn't seem right. He's had 4 poles though this year, but he's won 5 times. So he's doing a fantastic job, just wheeling and dealing. And MJ was very happy after the race. He said, "I don't even think I can cool him down." So good to see Reddick doing what he's doing, continuing to kill it, and like I said, having a better winning percentage than a lot of people in their careers. I mean, even in just the beginning of a season, what did I see that he is the 4th driver to win 5 of the first 9 races of the year. It was Richard Petty, Cale Yarborough, and Dale Sr. And Dale Sr. was the last to do it in 1987. So the fact it's been, math here is escaping me, 39 years since we've seen somebody win 5 out of the first 9 races. Um, that definitely says something when your only comparison is to Hall of Famers. I think you're doing a dang good job. I think you're doing a fantastic job with it. So good to see him running and doing as well as he's doing.
Well, we all know the winner gets the glory at the end of the day. But not every story ends in victory lane. Some performances deserve to be hung on the fridge, others you'd rather kick to the curb. Welcome to Fridge or Trash. So I have a little bit of a horn to toot here. I'm going to go with my O'Reilly fridge driver here. If I can find my notes, I'm going to go with Brent Cruz with the average finish of, what does it say here, 11.3. He has kind of an up and down season so far, but Bristol he did amazing, and he also had a great fifth place finish this week. I was kind of seeing him kind of up towards the front, and I'm like, oh, he's doing fairly decent, fairly well. And then he kind of got shoved to the back a little bit. I'm like, oh well, maybe next week. Then he kind of crept forward, and there he is, right there, and in fifth place.
Yeah. And he was no worse than he started. And with no practice or qualifying, like that says something. Uh he was definitely one of the best performances of the weekend. I've got at least two here that I would like to shout out. One of them, Ryan Sieg, fantastic finish in 10th, got himself, solid finish all day, or solid running all day. Seemed like he was always within the top 15, and for a smaller team like that, good to see him do very well. And you know, could have been better, obviously. With you always want to be better than where you finish if you're not winning, but a top 10 for that team is really good. And he was also the last one on the lead lap, but he was able to run really well throughout the course of the day, like I said, and just fantastic finish. Another one I want to shout out is the guy that finished right behind him in 11th, Dean Thompson for Sam Hunt Racing. Again, a smaller team. They're on the up and up for sure, just not necessarily up to the level that I know they can be at, but 11th place finish for him. He got himself a couple of stage points, or a stage point in stage 2, and he was also within the top 15, top 18 throughout the course of the day. So, very consistent, very solid finish for him as well. On the flip side of that,
Well, hold on. I forgot in my notes here. I have one more fridge driver here.
oh,
I'm gonna
we
shout out Sam Mayer here. Up until now, he had like average of like ninth, about 20th place. He came in ninth place this week, and that's a great call by his crew and great driving by him because that was a long green flag stop at the end, or a long green flag run at the end, and to do that and to stay on the lead lap, even though 10th got or 11th got lapped,
yeah.
to run that good top 10 after having a very rough couple of weeks, pat yourself on the back, Sam Mayer. Keep doing that. You did really good.
Oh yeah. And with the speed that they've got, with Sheldon Creed, like I said, finishing second, his teammate, like he can continue to run very well, and I think they've got the speed for it. So it's a matter of time, I think, for him. I'll actually let you start this out since I got a little excited to jump in on it. Who's who's your trash driver? Somebody that you toss their performance way out the window.
I know we try not to touch people that got into wrecks and things, but sometimes you have to. 'Cause you don't really want to kick a sick dog when it's down. But I have two of them. One because I'm sort of a fan, even though he's not doing all that great right now, is Parker Retzlaff. He would have good weeks, bad weeks, good weeks, and this one was awful. Like I said,
Yeah.
barely like 2.5 miles in, and there's nowhere for him to go in that situation. It's just a matter of slow down, close your eyes, and hopefully when you open your eyes, you're not smoking. And he was smoking. So
Yeah.
that was awful. But another one I'm going to have to say is Sammy Smith didn't do all that well either. with an average of 10.2. He came in 16th, one lap down. I think he got in a little bit of contact, but that just tanked the rest of his day. He did. I would try to forget about this week and focus on Talladega next week.
Oh yeah. Um, I was tinkering with Parker just because I know I've shouted him out quite a bit, and he's a kid I am rooting for and wanting to see do well. Uh, Rough week for him. I'm gonna avoid him just because it was not his fault. I so badly wanted to put Austin Hill in this position or in this segment here, but I'm gonna leave him alone because you know he got squeezed and contact. I'll say not necessarily 100% his fault. So I'm going to leave him out of it. The one I am going to kind of say was a disappointment this week was Harrison Burton. Uh, he's been doing okay this year in that 24 car for Sam Hunt Racing. It just was not his week. He finished 10 laps down and just unfortunately couldn't get things going in the right direction and was unable to overcome some early issues and, like I said, just kind of a lack of speed overall and wasn't able to do a whole lot with what he had. So, unfortunately, that's gotta be my trash, performance of the week just because again, I know he's got a lot more in him than what showed this week, and, uh, just look forward to Talladega. I mean, he got his lone cup win at a super speedway at Daytona, so maybe that translates over into his O'Reilly series ride. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see for that. We switch over to the Cup race. Let's go back to positive here because we like positivity around here a little bit. Who was your performance you'd proudly hang up on that fridge?
There's quite a few here, but I'm probably going to highlight Riley Herbst coming in 14th. With he was having about average of 24th place, and with this it bumps him up to 23.3. But I think this is his highest finish this year. No, it looks like Daytona. He came in eighth
Yeah,
place, but 14th at Kansas at a, I guess you can say, a dogleg oval. That's very, very good.
yeah.
And normally he's running in the back of the pack, or he's kind of the forgotten 2311 driver. But top 15, that's great. That's awesome. He needs to
Oh, yeah.
continue to put together. Now, and there was pits at the end of the. I don't know if he took two tires or not, but that probably jumped him up quite a bit. Because I think everyone behind ninth place took four tires, so I need to look back, but great result, Riley Herbst.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Um, he was one I know with him and Corey Heim racing directly against each other this week, and with all of the chatter that I've heard the last couple weeks about the two of them and which one deserves the ride, this, that, and the other, and Herbst finishing one position above Corey Heim was, I mean, both of them had great runs. Don't get me wrong, uh, but I think he felt like he had something to prove this week. I don't know if he's been listening to a lot of the outside noise, but he was able to do very well for himself this week. Two of them I got to shout out this week were not too far behind them. Todd Gilliland came in 17th. He's been having himself kind of an under the radar year. I know it's not been the best that he's won it either, but he's had some pretty solid runs to start the year. And coming in the top 20 for him, knowing where he can be and knowing where front row can be, this is a solid step in the right direction for them, especially at these intermediates where this car does so well. And then building on this momentum for next week for Talladega, where front rows had some speed historically as well, it's a good chance for them to keep going on the up and up as well. The other one that I want to shout out as well was, again, right behind him in Alex Bowman. I'll consider this his first true race back. Bristol was a very difficult one. It's a very difficult track for anybody, let alone somebody coming off of, I believe it was 4 weeks without racing, plus coming back from vertigo symptoms. Like, that's rough. So this was his first true test back, I think. And the fact that he was able to finish on the lead lap, top 20, running fairly decent throughout the entirety of the day was awesome to see. I'm glad to see him back in the 48, back to see good seeing him back at the track as well. Just running much better than his points suggest and much better than he started the year out with. I know part of it is the whole Chevy trying to figure out their new body situation, their new whatever, whatever their situation is. They've been trying to figure out a lot of different things, and I feel like Chevy as a whole kind of sort of took a step forward this week, but Alex Bowman in particular, I'm glad to see him back. If you're watching, glad to see you back. I doubt you're watching, but if you are, thank you. Good to see him back and running very well. So he's up there on my fridge list. But I'll flip it back around to you. Who was a trash driver for the week? Trash performance of the week.
I'm gonna cheaty doodle here. I know behind the camera we say only two, but I'm gonna go with three, and you probably know which three: Chastain, Zilich, Van Gisbergen. I think Trackhouse forgot the drivers at home this week, because normally they're decent at these tracks. They're
Yeah.
they're solid, but I don't think any of them got into any trouble today. It's just there was just almost no. I don't want to say there was no effort, but there was just. It's like they just put the cars on and said, "Let's just get some points and go home." I didn't see him at all, except for maybe during pit stops. Other than that, I didn't see them at all. To be honest, for about 5 minutes, I forgot they existed, and that's not what you want your fans to know, or that's not what you want your fans to say. Is, "Oh, I forgot they existed." But all
Yeah.
three of them dump it in the trash, throw, set the trash on fire, forget about it. It didn't exist. You didn't see me. I don't exist. Talladega next week.
Yeah. It was a rough week for them. Uh, I had heard that there were just a bunch of swings and misses as far as adjustments being made. And SVG in 36th. I mean, I know ovals are not necessarily a strong suit, but he's improved drastically on ovals over the last year and a half. But a 36th place finish and only beating out Cody Ware, who spun out at the end of the race, not a good look for you. Zilich in 29th and Chastain in 26th, kind of a rough one again for them. They just couldn't put anything together, and I don't know if it was because of the new, like I said, the new Chevy body, the new aero, I don't know if they've figured anything out. I'd also read somewhere that they had hired a bunch of new engineers and mechanics over the off season, and whether everybody is struggling, what's going on, I have no clue, but they got to figure it out. I I don't know. There's two I want to pick on again. One of them's been in the media a lot this week. One I kind of forgot drove this week. Uh, Joey Logano was rough, just no speed, no nothing. He was just kind of riding around as well. Two
He's
laps
usually
down.
good at he's usually good at these tracks too. I didn't realize he was down that far.
Yeah, 30th was a very underwhelming performance. He was the lowest Penske car by a mile. Even if you take into account his pseudo Penske teammate Josh Berry. Josh Berry was 27th. Blaney was 24th, but Cindric was way up in 12th. So it's not like they didn't have any sort of speed whatsoever. It's just whatever he was doing or whatever setup they had going on did not work. and he was having himself just fits all day long. The other one, I mean, do I dare mention him, or do I just say he's already been in the media enough this week? What do you think?
I'd say go for it.
All right. Sorry, Kyle. Uh, just having tire issues early. He was wearing out the right front super early, and then he had brake issues late. He came in under stage break, I think it was, or towards the end of a stage, and had said something about, check my brakes. My brakes don't seem right. And the team checked him and said, they seem fine. And he goes, well, my foot goes to the floor. It's clearly not fine. So, not in the best of moods, especially after Denny's comments this past week on his podcast about, this seems to be, a lot of different issues culminating, and, Kyle kind of shot back on Saturday. So clearly something's gotten into his head, and I want to see him do better. It's just, it's hard when you've got, tire issues and brake issues. And I mean, what would you do in his situation? And I know we've probably asked it before, but I'll ask it again. In his situation, what would you do if you're a veteran, been around for as long as he has been in this crappy situation? What would you do?
I haven't raced as long as he have has. I don't have a big of family that he has. But that's something he probably needs to talk to Childress about and go, I'm not happy. Where do we go from here? Because if I keep not being happy or something in the work that will either help the team or help me or something, I'm gone. Either retirement or to another team. There has to be some sort of ultimatum now. Either make me a little bit more happy. More money's not going to do it.
No.
That's not really. But equipment's got to be better. Got to get better parts or manufacture better parts. Austin Dillon can win at Richmond, it seems like.
Yeah, at Richmond.
Yeah. But something's got to give. There's got to be ultimatum. These things got to change. Here's how I think they can change or be a little bit better, even if small steps. If not, I'm gone. I don't know. That's just, like I said, I haven't been racing as long as he has. I don't have a family as long as he has. I'm not getting paid the millions of dollars, and I'm not at one of NASCAR's most historically legendary teams. So I don't know. That's what I would do. I would sit down with the owner and go, here's what's going to happen. Here's my ride or die. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't want to put him as my trash driver because I know he's been in the news a lot this week. I know he's been in the media a lot this week, but you can't really avoid it. I mean, it sucks, but I had to put him in there.
We have to talk about him eventually, especially when you go almost 3 years without winning, where you come
Yeah,
out and do
for
three your first year there. Then okay, you fall off to the end of the season, and then winless, and you're winless right now. Something's got to give. Something's got to change. He's just got to put his foot down and go, ride or die with me. And right now, you're dying with me.
yeah, it's rough over there at RCR, but I will say uh, they got to do what they got to do, and there are some adjustments that need to be made. But we're gonna switch over to back to the O'Reilly series for just a minute. We're gonna highlight some of the points situation that's going on over there. Allgaier continuing to dominate, just way up there in points. He's 520, and second place is Sheldon Creed at 389. So the field's got a lot of work to do to catch him, especially if Allgaier continues to finish in the top five. Going to the back to the race results real quick. Allgaier finished third. He was third in stage 1, 2, and the end of the race. So, and he started third. So the 3 was his favorite number all weekend, it seemed like. And when you have a consistent race like that, where you're scoring 50 points, it it's tough to catch him. But the field's got some work to do. They've got a ton of races left to do it. So we'll see if anybody can. But like I said, Sheldon Creed is sitting there in second. Jesse Love, with his great fourth place finish, he's in third. Corey Day was able to lead some laps this week and got quite a bit of stage points, earning himself 40 points on the day as well and jumping up to fourth. And then Brandon Jones, with the 2 stage wins, definitely helped him in the points. He hopped up to fifth and is only 20 points behind Corey Day in fourth. So again, some good movement in the points, kind of towards the third, fourth, fifth um, place. Below that, there's a lot more movement as well. We'll dive into that as we start to get closer to the end of the regular season. When we get to, the middle of the summer, maybe we'll dive into it a little bit more, into where that potential cut line will be for the chase. But for now, we'll just kind of highlight the top five and watch that movement kind of play out. In the Cup Series, with his win, Reddick still dominating in points. He's 105 points ahead of Denny. So that it's a pretty big gap. It's not impossible to overcome, but this just shows the consistency of Reddick for sure. Like I said, Denny is in second. Blaney didn't have the best of days today, but he did have a new Jackman that helped. It was his old Jackman from a couple years ago that actually, I think he hopped over from the 21 car, or was it the 4 car? There was a lot of shuffling going on between the Ford camp this week. So him getting an additional piece back that he's had before, it proved to help a little bit. Granted, the car was not as fast this week, but it definitely helped pit performance for sure. And, barring some mechanical fixes that they were doing on pit road, they seem to have fairly decent times. They actually improved quite a bit. And I think they had their fastest pit stops of the season. 2 of their fastest 3 or 4 were today or this week. So there's definitely been some improvement on that end. That has helped him. He dropped from second to third in the points, but still, he's up in the top 5 right now. Ty Gibbs is hopping up just a little bit in the points. He's in fourth. And Kyle Larson, with his impressive second place finish and collecting a lot of stage points, ends up in fifth place in the points at the moment. So, like I said, didn't expect to see Ty Gibbs up there in the points at this point in the season, but hey, that's what a win will do for you. That's what consistency running the top 5, top 10 will do for you. So good to see him moving on up and continuing to improve himself, improve, and prove to everybody that he's not just the Nepo baby, and the fact that he got himself a ride because he's coach's grandson and stuff like that. Like, he can actually drive it. It's just putting all the pieces together is going to be the difficult part. But he's got himself a win, so he's got that off his back. But yeah, it was a fairly decent week of racing. Like I said, things could have been a little bit more eventful throughout the middle of the race, but that's what happens at Kansas when they don't show the entirety of the battles. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the back of the pack, and there was some good strategy that was going on, and the ending overtime, as controversial as it may have been to begin with, I think was still very entertaining and fun to watch. So, you got any additional thoughts before we head out?
All I have to say is, if you're playing fantasy just as hard as we are, Talladega's a throwaway week. Just pick
Yeah.
a driver that's way in the back. Save your good drivers. Maybe pick one or two good ones, but it's a throwaway week. Don't try. Just don't try.
Oh yeah. I'll throw this out there. Potential news break. Don't know if it's been announced at the time of this, but I was up at Live Fast early in the week, midweek, and we could have a potential Cup debut at Talladega this week. If you want a throwaway driver, possibly pick. I'll just say Daniel Dye could be making his Cup start in the 78 this week. Just throwing that out there. But you didn't hear that from me. But potential, potential Cup debut. Just wanted to throw that in there. But you're right. It's kind of a throwaway week. You can pick whoever. I mean, shoot, go for Cody Ware. He spun out in the beginning or, at the end of the race. Maybe he wants to make up for it. I don't know. Or maybe people won't let him make up for it. I don't know. We'll see. But been a good week, and it will be an even better week because it's Talladega week this week. So we got, I believe, all 4 series, if you count ARCA, will be there. So, hey, if you're there, party, have a good time, but don't party too hard. Be responsible about it. Have fun on the boulevard to a reasonable degree. Don't go too crazy. But then again, it's Talladega, so if you're going to go all out, you might as well. But just be responsible about it. Uh, but yeah, we'll see you guys after this week's episode. And again, thank y'all for watching, listening, tuning in, sharing, commenting, all the good stuff. I don't know what other call to action you want me to say, but again, thank you guys, and we shall see you next week.